Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Max Colonization series. We got a couple of things on the docket today. One, I want to get the Somnium synthesizer up and running, although I'm still waiting for appropriate dupes to come out of the printing pod. So far I've only gotten 2, and I'd like to have 6 or 7. The other thing I want to do is move the bees. Right now, all of our hydrogen is being provided by these wonderful little bees down here. Oh my goodness, that's 171 kilos worth of hydrogen. But eventually we're going to want to repurpose this area and clean it out. Plus it's a little messy right now. So I like to move the bees into a domesticated situation. And one of the reasons I'm excited about doing this is because the Saturn critter traps require polluted water. Granted, it's only 10 kilos per cycle, but using more of the polluted water will free up more of our water coming from our water filtration and cleaning system, which will allow me to empty these ponds a little bit quicker. So while I wait for dupes to come out of the printing pod, we're going to end up putting the bee sanctuary probably somewhere in here. The first thing I have to figure out is how many Saturn critter traps I have. Right now in the resources pane, it says I have 3 seeds, and then I see 1 here, 2, I thought there was a 3rd. Oh, this one must have become flooded. So it looks like I have 5 total, unless I am missing them. Of course, I wonder what's in some of these buried objects. Oh, there's another Saturn critter trap seed right there. And this is not coming up on our buried objects because, well, we don't have access to get to it. Let me see, if I dig this up and dig that up, I should be able to get there. And then for science, we're going to do a little bit more digging and see if any of these buried objects over here contain Saturn critter traps. You may have noticed from the opening camera that I did end up installing the transit tubes. We have 3 on the colony right now. 1 here at the top going towards our industrial sauna. 1 here that is conveniently located by the suits, and then 1 down here at the bottom. Now you may wonder, well, why didn't I just move the transit tube access way over here? That way it's less runtime. I don't have a good reason other than I don't like the way it looks when you have tubes everywhere. So I like to just 1 corridor. But there's other things we can do while we try to lower their long commute. If we go into the daily reports and back it up to say cycle 1000, you can see that their travel time was 55%. Furthermore, we can even go into the colony summary, which is now going to do all the ding-dings, which this kind of makes me sad because I like to wait till the end of the game to do all the ding-dings. And no, we're not doing an achievement run. Still waiting. And finally. And here we can look at the total travel time and the average travel time. And you can see that the average travel time has gone down a few percent since I put in the transit tubes. But the more time we spend traveling is less time we end up doing errands. So this is definitely something you want to pay attention to. Something that we did earlier in the game to help was the plastic ladders, because it increased their run speed by 20%, as opposed to a normal ladder that doesn't do diddly squat. Well, we can do other things, such as put in plastic tiles instead of all these, say, insulated tiles here, and that will also help the dupes move quicker, because the plastic tiles have a run speed of plus 50%. So we're going to add a bunch of plastic tiles just like that. I'm also going to get rid of this deodorizer, because something like this also slows down the dupes as they have to hop over the tile. And you might say, well, with that run speed bonus, why don't you do your entire base in plastic tiles? Well, for one, I only have 12 tons of plastic. For 2, the granite will give you a little bit more decor bonus, although you're probably not going to miss out on just the difference of the 3 decor, remembering that the tiles have a radius of 1. So in every single tile, it's a net change of 3 decor. But if you like the plastic tile look, and you have plenty of plastic on your colony, a good argument can be made to replace all the tiles in your base as well. Lastly, making sure every dupe, as an example here, 270 has an athletics of 16, which means they have a plus 160% run speed. But now that we caught it and put them into exosuit training, they have a total athletics of 24, combined with the fact that the exosuit training nullifies the athletic loss of being in an atmosuit. They're getting a run speed of 240%. So if you think about it, that one change took 270's run speed in a suit from 160% to 240%. That's a lot more effective than all the transit tubes and plastic tiles you can put down. Apparently a lot of our dupes here were missing it, because I guess I have been slacking on skill points. And now taking a look at the travel time, you can see we've dropped about 5-6% just from all those skill updates. And who knows, maybe we had more work to do that cycle, but every little bit helps. Our exploration in the bee biome has revealed another Saturn critter trap seed, which kind of makes me want to go dig out some more area. Let me try these here. If I put a ladder, I can get up to this tile there. Oh, here's another couple. Oh, and I found a hidden one way up here. Looks like we're heading up there too. Trying to be careful to leave as much uranium as possible, because every time you dig it out, you lose half of the mass. But right now, the Saturn critter traps are more valuable. All said and done, our digging has revealed 12 total Saturn critter traps. I definitely don't need that many. Now, we are going to need a liquid lock, and to tell you the truth, it would probably be good if it was a double lock, because it's going to get very, very cold in here. Remember, your beta hives can only live in temperatures up to 10 degrees, and the Saturn critter trap can only go to minus 0.1. You might have also wondered why I chose this spot to begin with. Well, two reasons. Because it's conveniently located next to the sauna, where all that hydrogen needs to go anyways. But second, we have our deep freezer coolant line here. So this is what we're going to be using to keep this area nice and cold. So step one, let's get these liquid locks in. In fact, I'll do this side first. This can be any liquid, but this one here is going to have to be naphtha. Just because naphtha has a wide enough range to where we don't have to worry about this freezing. I'll also need to vacuum this out. It shouldn't take too long since the room is kind of small. And there we go. We have a nice vacuumed out room. Now I just need to add the naphtha to this side. And while I'm doing that, I'll also start to move these pipes around a little bit, keeping in mind that I'm going to have to bring a polluted water line in. So this is going to get a little messy. There we go. Now right now there is not an atmosphere in here to actually chill down, because it's a vacuum. So we need to add the atmosphere that we want. And in this case, we want hydrogen. Now I could just take the hydrogen from the pipe, but I've been wanting to clean up this mess for quite some time too. This is all the hydrogen from all around the map, just sort of rising and resting here because it can't go up any higher. So we have a gas filter here set to hydrogen gas, and it's going to send all the hydrogen to this room. I guess we can take out this pump for now. I am going to need a pump in this room, but that'll be later. Give it some power, and then I'll let this run for a little bit. All the non-hydrogen is just heading over here to a high-pressure gas vent, and now we have an environment to actually chill. And you might be wondering, isn't this going to be damaging to our deep freezer? Well, not necessarily. Because of the nature of the bee room, it actually doesn't produce a lot of heat. The only heat that we have to counteract is the 10 kilos of polluted water for each Saturn critter trap coming in. So once we get it down to temp, it's not going to bother this thermal aqua tuner at all. And with the temperature quickly dropping, it is time to bring our bee tiny up. Now this might take you a few tries because bee tinies are very, very fragile. And as soon as their body temperature goes above 10 degrees, well, they disappear into nothing. So we're going to try a quick relocate. Piercers on the job. Did the bee tiny make it? Yes, they did. Very nice. Now the bee tiny is going to walk around for a little bit until the end of a cycle, and it'll decide to plant itself and start growing into being a beta hive. Oh, I should probably cover up that tile too, because that would be an eligible tile. You also notice that I have a door here. The bee tinies will not make a hive if there is another beta hive in the same room. So we want to make sure this area here is separated. Here it is, the end of the cycle, and the beta has planted itself. Wonderful. So now I can get rid of all these ladders and get to putting in our hydroponic farms. I'm going to go with 10, except I am definitely going to need to put a bridge here. And I suppose I'm going to need another bridge here, keeping in mind that the bridge would transfer thermals from outside of the bee sanctuary to the inside. So we're going to insulate this tile as well. And this way I can run our polluted water line in. We'll bring it in right through here, keeping everything insulated. Otherwise, you could have polluted water cracking in the pipes. And now all we have to do is get polluted water up there, which is somewhat of a mess because of all this brine. So maybe I need to put the filter beforehand. Remember, I had this filter in here just to make sure that none of the brine would pass through the water sieve and then end up in our spalm. But now I need pure polluted water, which I can take it right off of here, but I'm also going to need to filter it. I am definitely going to update this later. It is such an eyesore. Okay, let me do this now. because there's no reason to have two filters running. Okay, this is a little bit better. I put the filter down here. It's set on polluted water. Everything else, until this tank is clean, will end up in these buffer tanks here. So then before the valve, because remember this valve controls which tank we're pulling the polluted water from, but I'm always going to want polluted water down this line, and it will go all the way up. Little skip over that area, and then I'm needing a couple more bridges in here. And there we go. We have polluted water coming into the bee sanctuary. Now all I have to do is plant the Saturn critter traps. I went with 10 just because it's a round number, and I thought this design will look pretty good. All the polluted water is coming in. All the Saturn critter traps are sitting there waiting. And what happens is when a bee comes and stumbles over one of these Saturn critter traps, it chomps on it and then digests it for 30 cycles. As it's digesting it, it releases hydrogen gas, which we then use to power our colony, whenever the massive array of steam turbines aren't doing that for us. Here's our first bee tiny now. Bye, bee tiny. Now you might wonder if one bee to hive is going to be enough, but like I said, the Saturn critter traps digest a single bee for 30 cycles. So it takes quite a long time, and in the meantime, the bee to hive is still going to continuously produce bee tinies. Eventually, we'll also use this area to enrich uranium, but for now, it is just a hydrogen factory. Now, I'm not going to remove this pump from here. There's still 104 kilos worth of hydrogen gas in every single tile here, so it's going to be a while until we don't have any hydrogen in there. So until then, I'll just let the pressure in the bee sanctuary rise and rise. Once I'm done with this pump here, I will end up putting the new gas pump in. This area cleaned up pretty well, which means it was time to remove the pipes that were going in here. So now I can put the gas pump for here. That seems like a decent spot. Add some power, and then I'll send it right through. Ooh, that's that silly neutronium, so I might as well go down. As I was saying earlier, I want to use all of the hydrogen in the bee biome first, so I'm going to bridge this on. So as long as there's hydrogen in this line will not be able to empty. Now's the time to work on our Somnium synthesizer setup. First things first, we need to activate it. It's just a toggling errand, and you can see univectored llama coming. Way to go. It's now activated. Note that it's not doing anything. And the reason why it's not doing anything is because it needs dream journals. And the only way to make dream journals is by putting dupes in pajamas. There's a handy dispenser here that we can select and click dispense item. Brett comes over, carefully inspecting all the pajamas inside the pajama cubby. Yep, definitely got to decide which pajamas are better. Anytime, Brett. Need some pajamas. And they get rolled up, and here's our handy pajamas. And then just like a snazzy suit, we could select the pajamas and put a dupe in them. But we're not going to do that for now. For now, I'm just going to dispense 7 pajamas. Now, dupes wearing the pajamas have a horrible athletics debuff. So a good strategy is just put dupes in pajamas and have them sleep all day. You don't want to use the dupes that are working around your colony, because then you'd have to remove the pajamas, otherwise they're going to be going super slow. Now so far I have 4 duplicants that I have found that are worthy of the pajamas. We have Wild Rat, JB Ram, Brianna Tarnowski, and Carol. What do all these dupes have in common? Well, they're all either sticker bombers or balloon artists. That's one of the reasons why it's taking me so long to find 7 of them. And the reason why it's important is because those dupes are not going to be into any skills. So their morale is always going to be super high, especially once we start having them live the good life, which means it increases their chances of doing their overjoyed response. And if it's a sticker, it'll be helping all the duplicants that way. If it's a balloon artist, they'll be handing out balloons. So why don't we start by taking all of our sleepy dupes and putting them in their own schedule. We'll call this the sleepy schedule. And for now, I'm just going to leave everything as default because the act of putting pajamas on is a work errand. They won't do it while they're idling. So you need to make sure all the duplicants are in the pajamas first. Now, there's nothing to say that you can't have your pajama dupes live in the colony with the rest of the dupes. But remember, every second that they spend sleeping means you're 1 second closer to getting a new dream journal. So you typically want their barracks, their mess hall, and their bathroom to all be very close together. And I've decided that we're going to put a penthouse on top of our colony for the pajama dupes for this reason. And I'd also like to make sure that they are still getting the nature reserve bonus. And the way we're going to be able to do this is have the dupes sleep, eat, and go to the bathroom up here. But when they're idling, then they can come downstairs to do some recreation. I still want it to be very close together, so I think this room here needs to turn into a recreation room. So it's time to move all of this sciencey stuff. Now, all the other duplicates on the colony have the stone cots because, you know, it's prehistoric DLC. But I think the sleepy dupes are going to be getting the stargazer cots. And so far, we've got the barracks going in and the Great Hall. Then I'm also going to give them their own bathroom. And as we know, that has a maximum size of 64 tiles, which is not bad. It means we need to seal everything up here. And once they finish building this, I am then going to open up this door. So the rest of the work will be done without suits on because I have to seal this wall. There we go. So it's time to open this up here. I am going to have to put a pneumatic door in there. If you remember, this area was initially too big and I actually had to fill in some of it to make sure that it was a nature reserve. So I will put a door here. I don't know what we'll call this little room. Maybe it'll be the penthouse foyer. Bathrooms are going in. We're just going to hook it up to the existing plumbing system here. It'll be somewhat of a stretch with the piping, but not too shabby. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. The return lines are coming over and then back down. And then we're just going to do a 50-50 split between this bathroom and this one. I'll also need to give this a few minutes because it's going to take a little bit of time to fill in those lines, but we're not ready to move the dupes into the penthouse yet anyways. Oh, I made all of their potties the same color. There, that's better. I think now it's time to work on the recreation room. Now this recreation room is going to be a joint recreation room for both the penthouse and the main colony. The important thing is this is where the dupes are going to want to idle. So while our sleepy dupe, who are super excited because they have super high morale and they want to hand out balloons, they'll be able to do it here where other dupes are crossing through to go outside or enjoying the recreation room themselves. For my recreation rooms, I like to just spend power, and what better way than with a jukebox and an arcade cabinet. Somewhat unfortunate that you can't put them on the same circuit. We are going to build them out of gold though, and gold amalgam, because each of these buildings has a decor. So when you build something out of gold, it gives a plus 50% bonus to the decor. And then we'll finish it off with a couple of payphones and some metal blocks made out of gold, some flowers. Oh, this is going to look so nice. Oh, the jukebox is in that tile. I need to move this over so this is all nice and centered. Finishing up with some power, I did have to add 2 more power transformers. The jukebox is a beefy boy at 960 watts, but the arcade cabinet is at 1200 watts. Must be a very nice graphics card in the arcade cabinet. Oh, it's a little warm up here. The rosebush doesn't want to be here, so I will change that out with another plant. Eventually, this place will all cool down as well, which that reminds me, I need to get this third leg up early enough to cover that. So we're going to send this one all the way up as well. In fact, I can do something like this for now. And after a little bit of pipe work, we got it all situated. The auction's going to be coming up here any second. There we go. In an effort to get this show on the road, I am going to try printing a yodeler. Because I believe when a dupe is yodeling, I believe there is a positive effect for anybody who hears the yodeling. So welcome to our 5th sleeper, Synth. You'll also notice that at the end of all the sleepy dupes names, I put the 3 Z's. And the reason why I do that is because, for instance, in the skill pane, I don't want to mistakenly sit here and be like, oh, well, Synth needs some skills. Or start messing in priorities and forget that Wild Rat is a sleeper. Next up, for the penthouse, we have to put in the Dream Journal delivery system. When the dupe is sleeping and they create a Dream Journal, you could have dupes just manually pick it up and then cart it all the way over here. In fact, quite often, people will build their sleepy barracks over by the Somnium synthesizer, so it's not a very long travel distance. In this case, though, because I wanted the dupes to be able to hand out balloons and sticker bomb everywhere for the other dupes, we put them over here. So I'm going to have to use a pretty hefty rail run to get them over there, but that's not going to be too big of a deal. We'll put in a pair of auto sweepers. No, we're not making you out of gold. And a conveyor loader. And no, these are not industrial machines, so they do not impact the fact that this is a barracks. Then we'll grab a conveyor rail and somehow make it all the way over there. Suppose this is a decent spot. Have to put some conveyor bridges here, no big deal. And then over here by the synthesizer, we'll have the conveyor chute where they're dropped off, And then we'll have to add an auto sweeper. And that way, as the dream journals come in, the auto sweeper can load up the Somnium synthesizer. We'll need a little bit of power over there. This line looks okay. Might as well just keep making more transformers. And then while the dupes do that, I figure it's time to put in some wallpaper. First, our recreation room. We got the fun party arcade drywall. For the mess hall, we're going to do something a little different than the standard charcoal checkers that I like to do. We've got the cafeteria, not sure, never seen that word before. This bathroom down here used the plungers and the toilet paper, so why mess up a good thing? We'll do the same thing here. And then for our barracks, a bunch of nice, happy, sleepy dream clouds. Since I'm here, I'm also going to put some decor in the research lab since dupes run through it all the time. It'll help having some nice decor there. And can't stop now, so we'll do the suit room as well. On the subject of decor, yeah, we've made it a lot better with all the wallpaper, but you notice the barracks is still looking pretty bad. In addition, the bathroom as well, and it's because, in the case of the bathroom, it's because of the lavatories. In the case of the bedroom, it's the auto sweeper and the conveyor loader. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit better in here by adding a couple of paintings. We're up to 575 Rex fiber, so that will work out well. And there we have it. I think the penthouse is done. All we have to do now is move the dupes in. We're going to start off by using the refrigerator. We're going to mirror it to this refrigerator, so no matter what, the dupes will always be able to transfer some food over there. So we're just going to copy the settings from it. You don't necessarily have to have a refrigerator in the Great Hall, but once again, it maximizes the amount of time that the dupes are spending just going to sleep. Now, in some situations, you may not even let the dupes out of their sleeping penthouse. In that case, you have to have a refrigerator or a method for them to get food. In this case, I'm just using it to minimize the amount of travel time they need. And I just realized I put too many tables inside the Great Hall. So I'm just going to remove the ones on the outside so it'll look a little nicer. Speaking of which, I can also put some nice ceiling trim in here. That'll help out the bathroom decor. And then we'll add some wonderful paintings in the Great Hall. And now all we have to do is move the dupes in. Synth's already moved up here because, well, they were printed afterwards. But in order to move them in, all you have to do is make sure that they're sleeping up here. So we'll go to all of our Z names. Here's Wild Rat, Carol, Brianna, and JB. Still waiting on 2 more. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with the mess tables. And with those assigned, they're ready to go in the pajamas. But instead of having them get into suits and come put the pajamas on, I'm actually going to move all of them. And there's a couple of ways we could do this, but I think the easiest way is just going to be putting a storage bin, going down to clothing, and selecting pajamas, and then all the other dupes will go grab them. On that note, I've also adjusted the permissions on the door to get outside the base, so none of the sleepy dupes are allowed to leave. And with all 7 pajamas here, we can deconstruct the storage bin. And we take each pajama, we put the dupes in them, and they're so easy to find because once again, we labeled them with the sleepy Z's, and now they're in their pajamas. And if we click on Wild Rat, we can highlight the fact that not only are they planning on handing out balloons during their downtime because they're so excited, because they've hit their overjoyed response since they have such an excess morale, but also the fact that you can see they have minus 10% stamina and minus 8 to athletics for being in the jammy jams. Now all that's left is to fill their work with nothing but sleep time. And I'll throw a bath time in there. And here they all come to go to sleep. Now you don't necessarily need to have the downtime, but it's part of the strategy of making sure that they have time to go into the recreation room, hand out balloons, slap stickers everywhere. And it's also the reason why I use 7 duplicates. You can get away with 6. 6 duplicates, all producing dream journals, is enough to keep the Somnium synthesizer going. But this way I can make their downtime a little bit longer, which means they spend more time handing out balloons. You'll notice they have a status bar under their sleep symbol. At the end of the status bar is when they do produce a dream journal. I can't select it in the conveyor loader until we've discovered them. No. You're not going to take a shower in your jammies? Carol's got the right idea. And there we go. We have our first dream journal. So now I can select it under story trait. The auto sweepers will pick it up, and then the auto sweeper delivers them. And notice there's a status bar on the top of the Somnium synthesizer. We have to get this to be full, but once the 5th dream journal is delivered, it sort of wakes up. You can see one of the brains is starting to activate. Let me fast forward until the synthesizer gets enough dream journals. Maybe by that time I'll have enough sleepy dupes. Close. I was going to grab this Camille, but as they are a sticker bomber, unfortunately Camille is a mouth breather. I don't want to pay even more of an oxygen cost for a sleeper, so maybe next time. One thing I'm going to add to their barracks, because they spend so much time in there, is an extra vent. And that way the oxygen doesn't have to come from all the way over here. And I just realized something as Synth went all the way down to this bathroom and then grabbed food there since it was closest. Notice these dupes are almost done with their meal and Synth is still trying to climb the ladder. Speaking of which, why haven't I upgraded that to a plastic ladder yet? So I'm going to have 2 sleepy schedules and make sure half the sleepers are on one and the other half on the other. I will just shift it by a little bit, and that way all the dupes will use this bathroom instead since it's closer and it'll be available. We're almost there. We've delivered 15 dream journals. We've got 3 brains activated. Oh, and my rusty deoxidizer is still waiting for some more salt. So I need to find another oxygen source. So I suppose I will use this one. And we'll go ahead and throw a bridge on it, and that way none of the oxygen in this line will be used if there is oxygen available in the line coming from the rusty deoxidizer. Here's Synth still sleeping. All the other dupes scheduled shift. Let's make sure that there is enough time for them to use the potty. All right, now there's available, so the other dupes will be able to use the bathroom when they wake up, and it'll be the close bathroom. Because once again, you want them to stay up here, getting food from up here, using the bathroom, because they're all so incredibly slow in their jammies. As a precaution, I took it one step further. That way they're not using the showers or these bathrooms, as I put restrictions on that door. So now there should be no reason for them to go anywhere other than the recreation room. And it looks like we have completed it. We get the story tray complete, a nice little message, and then we can unlock maximum aptitude mode. We get a nice little model plane. The Somnium synthesizer starts using a lot more oxygen. In fact, it is 5 dupes worth at 500 grams per second. But notice it's using 16.67 grams worth of dream journals per second. Well, we started with 25, and unfortunately, because I don't have at least 6 dupes all sleeping, the Somnium synthesizer will run out. But once I get all 7 dupes, it'll continue to analyze dreams permanently. So what's the big deal? Why did we go through all this pain? Well, if we take a look at Dave Hammer, you can see they're now getting the maximum aptitude buff. Minus 25% to stress, and plus 5 to athletics, strength, science, piloting, and machinery. So in our earlier case of looking at 270, they now have an athletics of 29, and are going to be running at plus 290% run speed. So yeah, you end up losing 6 or 7 duplicants worth of productivity, but you've made every other duplicant that much better. Is it worth it? I don't know. But do keep in mind, it'll apply to every duplicant on the star map, no matter what planetoid they're on. And that was the big reason why we did it in this playthrough. Just the minus 25% distress is really going to help us out when we're putting duplicants on other planetoids in some, well, we'll say precarious situations. I wanted to give you an update on the B situation, and it's glorious. We have 65.4 kilos of hydrogen in every single tile. All the Saturn critter traps are full, and our thermal aqua tuner is still only working around 37% of the time in the last 5 cycles. Not too shabby. Not that we're going to be using that hydrogen up there anytime soon, because there's still 104 kilos worth of hydrogen pressure down here. I'm starting to think we might have too much power on this colony. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and have learned everything you need to do in order to activate the Somnium synthesizer. I'm looking forward to reading your comments below. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.